Our guest in this segment is the chairman of the Democratic Party in the state of West Virginia, Delegate Mike Pushkin. Mike, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
Wonderful to have you, sir.
And do you feel better, Mike, that you're in the company of a true professional Memorial, aren't you?
I don't know about
I feel, much more comfortable. I'm glad she made it back in time, but we knew she would because, as you said, a true professional.
True professional.
Yeah, that's the thing about doing an interview. You have to be at the interview to do it.
In the seat. That's right.
AIS, yeah.
Yeah, for any job, I think showing up is what they said at 90% of success in life, right?
Just
Indeed.
showing up. All you got to do is be there, right?
Yeah.
Lesson number one for young people. Hey, so this was not on my list of things I had emailed you about yesterday or texted you about yesterday, Mike, in regards to coming on the show. But when I came in this morning, here it was, staring me in the face from Seth Stern. It says the West Virginia Democratic Party removed 17 members from its state executive committee under a new attendance rule. This action, which has not been widely publicized by party leadership, may conflict with West Virginia law and established legal precedent. And then there's a large press release that goes on to call it the largest purge in its history. What's the story behind that, Mike?
Well, it's patently false, first of all. You said Seth Sturm sent it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, nothing illegal about it. I think most people can relate to attendance policies. As we just said, I believe 90% of success in life is showing up, and I think most people would, you take a job, you're expected to show up for it. In fact, most places of employment have attendance policies. I'm sure you have an attendance policy there at WRNR as well. Mm-hmm. And the process started nearly 2 years ago on our Rules and Bylaws Committee, a very open and transparent process where members of our executive committee saw that there are people who put their name on the ballot and then don't show up for any of the four quarterly meetings that we have a year. So they went to work on an attendance policy and made sure that they made it constitutional and legal and above board and above all else transparent. And anybody could participate in that process and see what the Rules and Bylaws Committee was working on. They put forth a recommendation to the Committee of the Whole, the West Virginia Democratic Party State Executive Committee, that voted on this nearly a year ago, last June, after our convention. It passed overwhelmingly by the State Executive Committee, which is the governing body of the state party, just like the Republican Executive Committee is the governing body of their state party. The governing body of the Republican Party that voted to close their primaries. Well, we took a vote to have an attendance policy that if you're going to put your name on the ballot and be elected to the executive committee, you should at least be able to make half the meetings. However, in the execution of this policy, we wanted to be as lenient as possible. So emails went out to those who had missed a couple of meetings this year, reminding them of the policy, and there was a meeting that took place in April. So prior to that meeting, emails went out, hey, this is the new policy. I want to show, and we also had a Zoom option as we do for the vast majority of meetings that we have. And so the emails went out, and then those who still didn't attend received a certified letter. In that certified letter, there was a form to check a box and you get a waiver, and with a addressed stamped envelope in it. So we made it very easy for people to appeal, this attendance policy. Just basically, take some sort of action, and you're welcome on the committee. But I think in most cases in life, you got to show up, especially if you're there to represent a senatorial district or whatever district that is that you're representing on the committee. You got to show up and represent those people. So I would strongly consider the source, next time you get a press release from somebody, because there is a very, very, very small yet very loud, disgruntled portion, as there is in any organization, that would rather me come on here and explain our attendance policy than talk about what we are supposed to be talking about, and that's the fact that West Virginians are losing their jobs because of bad policies from Republicans. That's what we're supposed to be talking about.
Just about Seth Stern, it says he's the former Indigenous Caucus Chair for the West Virginia Democratic Party. What is an Indigenous Caucus Chair?
Well, we have different caucuses within the party for different constituency groups. And unfortunately, we were never able to field enough folks for that particular constituency group to have like a formal caucus there. So he was, self-appointed to this position, so he could use that as some sort of wedge to cause division because I guess he has his own problems to deal with. I would just say, consider the source. We're a united party, and we have a lot to deal with right now in regards to national policies that are coming out and affecting West Virginians. Like these threats of tariffs that are on one day, off another day, and then we're hearing about plant closures all over the state, especially down, where I live in Kanawha County, where we had this facility that was set to assemble electric school buses, and the next thing we know, they're laying everybody off largely because of tariffs, and also because of the end of these tax credits that they were getting under the previous administration. Let's
talk about that, Mike. How many layoffs will there be, and how many people were employed at that plant?
From I understand, it's like at this point now, I believe everybody's getting laid off there. And I remember when they opened, and the Speaker of the House and our governor at the time, where they were all ready to line up and get their picture taken at the ribbon cutting and take credit for this. But we said all along, what incentivized a company like this to come to West Virginia and employ people in the Kanawha Valley in the first place were these tax credits that were part of the Inflation Reduction Act. So, you can say what you want about the former administration. They did some good things. One of not the least of which was the Inflation Reduction Act, which, of course, the deciding vote on that bill was our Senator Manchin. So West Virginia really was disproportionately helped by that particular piece of legislation. And in one of the things that it did, it had these tax incentives for companies like Green Motors to expand into the Kanawha Valley. Now, unfortunately, nothing is assembled completely anywhere in this day and age, and I believe a lot of those parts do come from other countries, and because of these threats of tariffs, their future is uncertain, and they're laying people off. Thanks to the current administration, thanks to the Trump administration. And that's, Trump economics is the rule by chaos and have these threats of tariffs and rolling back tax credits, which is in what they call this big, beautiful bill. And it's harming West Virginians. And not just in Kanawha County. I think Forum Energy is going to be hurt by the rollback of these tax credits. The threats of tariffs are causing job loss in the northern Panhandle as well with Cleveland Cliffs. It is not helping us here in West Virginia.
What do you know about any potential Medicaid cuts from the House bill that was passed that is now in front of the Senate?
Well, it's going to kick about millions of Americans off of their health care, and a large portion of that in West Virginia. It will go after the expansion population here in West Virginia, and I think last number I saw about 40,000 West Virginians or so are not going to have health care. What's that going to do to our rural hospitals in this state? It will be devastating. That is not a good bill for West Virginia, so I sincerely hope that Senators Capito and Justice think twice about who they represent. Are they there just to kiss up to Donald Trump, or are they there to fight for West Virginians?
Bill?
Yeah, good morning, Mike. A couple of things. And we had Dale Lee on the previous, and a couple of issues that came up with Dale Lee was, one, the elimination of the Department of Education. Is there a downside to that approach?
Well, yes. A lot of times when things are left up to the states, they just don't get done. If you see what's happening on the state level, where we leave things, because what's up to some counties, we're having to have the state step in and help out in certain counties where things aren't getting done. The same can be said on the federal level. No, I think it would be very damaging, and it causes us to lose funding for certain scholarships is going to be devastating, mainly for poor rural students who rely on some of this assistance to get an education. Education is the great equalizer in our society. Maybe that's why some of these MAGA Republicans are so dead set on destroying it, because it is an equalizer. His constituency are the people that can afford to buy into these clubs I'm hearing about popping up in Washington, D.C. that are controlled by his family, where you pay millions of dollars for access to the president. Those are the folks who are making money off of these threats of terrorists. These aren't the ones who are tariffs. These aren't the ones that are losing their jobs over it. There's a small group of people in this country that are profiting off of this presidency, and the rest of us are left holding the bag, and everybody in West Virginia is. So people really need to look at, about who these policies are helping and who they're hurting. Who they're hurting is us.
Yeah, going back to the Department of Education, one of the attractiveness that they've been used is that it would eliminate the bureaucracy in D.C. and fund the education in individual states through block grants. That approach is not new, but it's also a mixed bag as well. What's your sense of shifting everything to block grants?
Well, like I said, my fear is that it just doesn't get done, and a lot of our kids in West Virginia don't get the education that could help pull them out of the situation they're in. And I just don't think that that's a priority for some folks, mainly in the Trump administration. That's not who they're concerned about, are poor kids in West Virginia who need a little extra help in furthering their education and pulling themselves out of poverty. That's not who they care about. So, I will look more into their plan on the Department of Education, but I don't think it's going to be good for us.
Maria.
So, Mike, do you think that West Virginians as a whole who supported President Trump wholeheartedly are I don't want to say buying, because then it sounds like I'm questioning you, but do they are they understanding until it hits them personally? Will they understand about Medicaid cuts, Medicare cuts, losing jobs, those kinds of things? Is your sense that the tide's changing on how people feel about this president, about this administration?
I think little by little, yes, I do feel the tide changing. When you see groups of people in rural Braxton County, West Virginia, lined up alongside of I-79 demonstrating against DOGE cuts, that we haven't seen anything like that before. Every single weekend there are these small pop-up demonstrations against DOGE cuts, against cuts at NIOSH, where we've lost a lot of good-paying jobs that were meant to protect a lot of people's jobs and a lot of people's workplace conditions here in West Virginia. That's not what people voted for. I don't remember them running on, we're going to have these, massive layoffs in your state, and we're going to get rid of the Department of all the stuff that they're doing is not what they ran on. They ran largely on social issues, but what they're doing is basically these paying for tax cuts for those at the top of the food chain, for the wealthiest 1%, and doing so by hurting those of us here at the bottom. A lot of folks who live in West Virginia. So I think it will be a real eye opener if the Republicans in the Senate, stick with Trump rather than their constituents and pass this bill. When you see the effects of these cuts, it's not just about the folks that's going to kick off of their health care, which is concerning, but what does it do to our rural hospitals? What does it do to access to health care in states like West Virginia? So it is going to hurt. We don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I think it's going to be hard to deny when that does happen.
Mike, you mentioned West Virginia several times. The governor is going to supposedly call a special session to look at PEIA. What would you like to see out of the special session?
First of all, I'd like to see some planning go into it first. I've not heard anything in reality about a special session. It's not happening anytime soon, from what I understand. You would have to, meet with the stakeholders in that and come up with some sort of a plan before you call in a special session on the taxpayer's dime. We just had a 60-day session where it was not a priority for this governor at all. Meanwhile, it is a priority for our teachers, our first responders, our correctional officers, folks that work in CP, all these important jobs in the public sector, our state workers. It's a priority for them because they're seeing a third rate increase in the past couple years, which is effectively a pay cut, and it hasn't been a priority for the Republicans in the legislature or this governor. So what I would like to see is actually be a priority, and we find a way to fund it permanently.
What would be a way to do that, though, Mike? I remember a couple of years ago the union wanted to fund it off of the extraction taxes. Right now, data centers are a big thing, but they're not actually built.
Thing where? There's not one in West Virginia, and I'm not sure that bill's going to
in terms of conversation pieces, it's obviously there aren't any built.
I mean, there are many ways to do it. It's a matter of priority. Like you mentioned that 1 cent increase on that tax on natural gas that would not affect the consumer at all. It's going from 5% to 6%. Same as the sales tax that you would pay if you went and bought a shirt at the mall. That's only fair. That's one way. There are many different ways you could do it. It's just a matter of it being a priority. Unfortunately, it's not been a priority for this governor. Instead, it's been the dismantling of public education. Sometimes I feel like they don't care if they're able to attract enough teachers to the classroom. And it's a problem across the board. We're not able to attract people to these important jobs because they're not a priority to us. So I hope there is a special session on this. It's unfortunate that we have to do it on the taxpayer's dime instead of doing it during the allotted time that we have during the 60-day session. But instead, they wasted time with, standing up on a motorcycle or, inspecting, people's private parts before they go to the bathroom. They wasted all this time on these culture war issues that don't do anything for anybody and didn't do what they needed to do. They did what they wanted to do, but not what they needed to do.
For PEIA, there's supposed to be an 80-20 split. Is that the law or a guideline or suggestion in regards to how the premiums are paid?
I believe that's in policy. I mean, I'm willing to open it all up as long as it's a priority and we're able to fix it. But you're not going to be able to fix it just by refusing to fund it. And that's the thing. We have to put something into it, prioritize these folks who take care of us, whether it's our teachers or our correctional officers or our first responders. Why would people go into that profession knowing how bad the benefits have become? Back in the day, they say, well, the pay's not great, but the benefits are. Well, that's become less and less true. We did not keep our end of the bargain up. So unless they find a permanent funding stream for it, we're going to keep coming back to the same issue. Obviously, I think what the Republican answer is to privatize it. That's going to cause premiums to go up. There will be more overhead, giving these folks to the wolves of the private industry. That will cause the overhead to go up, and obviously premiums will go up. I'm for taking care of the people that take care of us and keeping our promise.
Donald Trump throws a lot of red meat out there every single day, sometimes in the same sentence on two different ends of it. Has that garnered any momentum in the state Democratic Party, which I think it's probably safe to say is over the last 90 years at its lowest point in West Virginia right now? I'm not sure I understand the question. Are the things that Donald Trump says, that garnered? And his actions, are they inspiring any momentum at the ground effort in the Democratic Party in the state of West Virginia right now and nationally?
We have fielded more phone calls from prospective candidates. We have got more people sign up to join our county committees. We have seen a huge increase in enthusiasm because the opposition is just so over the top bad right now with the things that they do and the things that they're doing to our friends and neighbors here in West Virginia. That's not what these folks signed up for. Nobody thought they were going to lose their job up at NIOSH, or lose their job at the building electric buses here in South Charleston, or lose their job at the steel mill up in the northern Panhandle. That's not what they signed up for, but that's what they're getting. So, I say more so than the things that he says, it's the actions that he's taking. And it's all set up to help the wealthiest 1%. Very few of those folks actually reside in this state. They don't live here. They don't set foot in this state. So they're hurting those of us at the bottom of the food chain to help those at the very top. And it's disgusting to me where you see people buying access to the presidency through these dinners where you buy a fake Donald Trump coin and you get access to the president, or whether you're joining one of these clubs that are popping up in D.C. to get access to the president. That's not how this country is supposed to work. People are starting to wake up to that.
Mike, do you see the Democratic Party weighing in by voice or action with this potential lawsuit regarding vaccination?
30 seconds, Mike.
No, we fought it on the floor of the House. I think that these lawsuits the people that are bringing these suits are going to win. The governor, anybody with 8th grade background in civics knows that the legislative branch makes the laws. It's the governor's job to execute the laws, and he cannot unilaterally make a law, especially if we know what the legislative intent was. It failed in the House of Delegates, this vaccine bill. It failed overwhelmingly. At that point, it should have been over. The governor should have rescinded his illegal executive order.
And on that note, Mike, I got to go.
The Democratic Party's not joining into the suit. They're going to win.
And thank you for your time, Mike. I wish you a good day. It's 9:57. Final break on the way here.
Thanks.